About 25 years ago, when I was in middle school, 7th grade, I had a real bad problem with bullies. I couldn't handle the ridiculing I took while riding the school bus, so I started walking 3 miles to and from school every day. The path I walked was pretty safe, mostly on a sidewalk, and always on a busy road, with the last 2.5 miles being a straight shot directly to the school. Back then, there wasn't a stigma attached to kids being outside on their own, so this wasn't deemed unsafe or noticed by anyone, or so I thought. I lived alone with my father, parents being divorced, and my mother saw me on weekends. He didn't see any harm in the walking, and my mother wasn't aware of the bullying or the walking. I did not want her to know, so I continued unimpeded for over half the school year. Now, I wasn't really an active kid, and I sure didn't like having to walk 6 miles every school day, so I assumed this was my motivation for the error I was about to make. One day, on the way home, a car pulled up on the shoulder and stopped, about 100 feet ahead of me. That car looks familiar. Hey, it's my father. He's going to drive me the rest of the way. Woo! I started to jog up to the car, seeing him in the driver's seat, waiting patiently. His hair looks darker than normal today. Wasn't the inside of his car tan, not red? The thoughts left as soon as they entered, and I caught up to the car, opened the passenger side door, and started to get in. As I was tossing my backpack on the floor in front of me and swinging my legs into the car, I started saying, "Thanks, Dad," but the sentence never completed. Before I knew it, I had shut the car door, and we began to move. This isn't my father. This man was much older, by at least 20 years. Hair obviously dyed black, and hands propped at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. The shirt he was wearing looked just like one my father would have worn, a short-sleeved, collared button-down, brick red, with black horizontal lines, not pressed, but not too wrinkled either. He was smiling at me, which probably would have felt warm if it was coming from my grandfather, but instead felt menacing. I heard a click and looked over at the door, which had just been locked. I stared at the door for a moment longer, then turned and faced front and completely froze, terrified. What do I do now?
Hello, I saw you walking. I figured I'd come give you a lift.
I did not move or answer. Don't act scared, just act normal. His voice matched his smile, deceivingly friendly. We were roughly a mile away from home, and half a mile from the next turn needed to head in that direction. All I could concentrate on is how I was going to get out of this situation. Stay calm, stay calm. Don't act scared.
Are you on your way home?
This snapped me a little out of my zone. Home. Home, yes, I want to go home. I answered, yes. Stay calm. Talk normally. Don't act scared.
Where's your house? I can take you there.
Feeling slightly relieved, I told him to take the next right turn. I felt myself begin to breathe and realized how tense I'd been. My body relaxed slightly, and I finally moved and wrapped my hands around my backpack straps. See? Things are fine. You're fine. Keep calm and you'll get home. Just don't act scared. We started to come up on the intersection, and I pointed ahead, reiterating that this was my turn.
Okay, but if you want, we could take a ride instead.
It sounded like a question, but it didn't feel like one. The dotted line for the turn lane had begun, but he did not get over. Instantly, I tensed back up, and my grip and my gaze on the backpack straps tightened. Don't act scared. Don't act scared. Through strained muscles, I choked out that no, I really need to get home. I really need to get back home. He swung the car into the turn lane and began to make the turn. Wide-eyed, I glanced up and verified that, yes, indeed, we were making the turn. Okay. See? Everything is going to be fine. He's taking you home.
Are you sure? I'll make sure you get home before anyone realizes you're gone.
Stay calm. don't act scared. Grip tightening further, I abruptly stated that no, I need to get home now. My father is expecting me home now. He's waiting. I just hoped it sounded more convincing than it sounded to me. We completed the turn.
Okay, maybe next time we can meet at the same place tomorrow.
Sure, yes. Tomorrow's good. I just need to get home today. Now, maybe it actually was convincing. My eyes were firmly trained on the road ahead of us, hoping that if I just focused on the direction of home, I'd get there. The turn into my neighborhood was approaching, and I informed him, again pointing towards the direction home. The next few moments were silent, even if it was loud in my head. Act normal. Don't be scared. It'll be okay. Everything will be okay. Just don't act scared. Things will be fine. Just be normal. As we came upon the turn, I reminded him, and to my slight surprise and incredible relief, he made the turn. It's okay. It's okay. Everything's going to be okay. For the first time, I had more hope than doubt. Oh no, he can't know where I live. What should I?
You know, it's probably not a good idea that I drop you off right at your house. Your dad might see me and get mad that I gave you a ride home, and then we wouldn't be able to meet tomorrow.
I was able to appreciate the good fortune of my silent question being answered for me. My old neighborhood consisted of mainly apartments, but in the back were a block of townhomes, which is where I lived. If you were unaware of the layout of the complex, the townhouses might go unnoticed. Right before we got to the area where I lived, I told him here. Stop here. He pulled over to the side of the road, in front of an apartment building. He unlocked the door, and I hurried out of the car, backpack still in hand. I began to close the car door behind me.
See you here tomorrow, same time.
I paused for just a second and risked another look at the man, still smiling, still terrifying. Yes, tomorrow. See you later. I finished closing the door and hurried off. Don't run. Don't run. Don't act scared. Don't run. I swung my backpack on the right way and briskly walked in the opposite direction of my house. I could hear the car still idling behind me, and it wasn't until I was able to turn off the road and leave his view that I heard him start to move. He had to drive up to where I was walking to turn around, and I glanced back as he was making an awkward turn, instead of going around the block, to leave. He caught my gaze and gave a slight wave before driving off. My hand was in the reluctant process of waving back, but I was slow enough that he was gone before I completed the motion. I turned my head and kept walking, and the moment I could no longer hear his car, I ran, as fast as my pudgy legs and heavy backpack would let me. I ran around where I could hide between two buildings and hid there for a while, until I felt enough time had passed for me to feel confident he was not driving around waiting, looking for me. It was probably 30 minutes, but it felt like hours to me at the time. I ran the rest of the way home, keeping a lookout, making sure he couldn't see me going through the backyards. I reached my front door, unlocked it, and almost spilled inside. I was moving so fast. It wasn't until I locked the door behind me that I felt safe. I didn't feel scared anymore. I was home, and I couldn't believe it. In the end, I told both of my parents, and my mother forced my father to drive and pick me up from school for the remainder of the school year, and luckily for me, the bullying stopped the next year. My father didn't believe me, and thought I made up the story to get out of walking to school. In his defense, me trying to explain that no, the car was exactly like yours, except the entire color of the inside, and no, he did look like you, just with darker hair, and it all happened so fast, and, well, it didn't matter. It was worth his disbelief and annoyance every day in the car, so I never had to meet that guy again.